37. So first of all, I just want to say, just give a big round of applause for Gary.
Yeah.
I'm going to be cutting out that way. So thanks for coming again. We'll see you in March. All right, so when I became the historical committee chair, we were just about the process to get control of this property. So I just want to real quick tell you the very, very brief history of this 37.4 acres. In 1800s, as we heard, this was pasture land, mostly clear, right? What do you think they turned it into around probably around 1900, 1920, maybe 1930?
Apple orchard.
Absolutely. It was apple orchards for quite a while. Then it went back to cattle. Remember, Gary said he could see the clearing up here back when he first came up here, right?
Yep.
It became a jungle of invasive species before we got it in 2022. So the American Battlefield Trust, then Civil War Trust, purchased this property with our help and other people's help in 2017. COVID hit, it took a while. Gary's going crazy, our Gary, trying to get the state or Commonwealth, to be more accurate, to process this property to us, because we really couldn't do anything until we get this property. But I want to just read you, this is just real short, one line. This is directly out of the joint meeting in 2017 between the Civil War Trust, the Department of Historical Resources, and others in Richmond. And this is the vision of the CWT, now ABT, for this property. And tell me how we're doing. You ready? This is verbatim. This is their intentions. They wanted to see walking trails, footpaths, parking facility, signs for interpretation of the property at the Civil War battlefield. So how did we do 9 years later? And it took all those 9 years to be able to do that. So we received the deed in December of 22, and then immediately got into clearing, and I'm going to talk about the clearing, what our plans are. This is important. And I'm up here with Gary. I think this is the second tour. Where is he at? Where'd you go? I'm in a second tour with him, and I've gone many more since. And he says, Chuck, now that you're going to get the property, are you going to try to find the location of the Confederate mass grave for the First Battle of Kernstown? I vaguely remember seeing something in his book about that. And so I'm the new committee chair, historical committee chair, and I'm now tasked to find a 158-year-old, whatever it is, gravesite. I'm a history major, but let me tell you what, we're not professionals here. We're all amateurs. How do you find a gravesite? We know the bodies have been removed. They're in, everybody been to Stonewall Cemetery and Mount Hebron complex?
Yep.
There's a circle there, and there's a Kernstown marker. That's those dead 79 to 80 some Confederate soldiers, their bodies that were taken up in 1866. So they were buried here for 4 years. 4 years. And how do we know about that? We know various things. If you walk, anybody read all the signs over in Rose Hill Park? One of those signs has an excerpt of a young lady, a 19-year-old, still a teenager, named Sperry. In her diary, she talks about coming up here and seeing the gore from the battle, watching her neighbor help the Union Yankees bury these Confederates in a quote-unquote tiny trench. She's picking up bullets, and she's taking a piece of the stone fence. So this is in 1862. She's already collecting souvenirs from the first Kernstown fight. And she says, and they immediately put a fence around it. That's why, now it wouldn't be the same style fence, but that's one reason we put a fence around it. So that's cool. We know they're in a hospice map. You have it in your packets on 2 of the 3 hospice maps of this ridge. How do you find the actual site? You think it's gone? How close is Route 37?
Pretty close.
There's the fence line right there. So the chances of it being gone are high. It might be in a museum property, which is not going to go well for us at that time. So what we did was we tried to figure out, how do you find it? Anybody want to know what you can use, what technology you can use to find an old gravesite?
Land penetrating radar.
Ground penetrating radar was the last thing we did, but we did, absolutely.
Never done.
Human remains detection dog. We started with LiDAR. Only thing we really saw was remnants of apple orchards. Couldn't see any depression or anything like that. And I watched the Discovery Channel where they were using a especially trained cadaver dog, human remains detection dogs, the politically correct term today, to find at graves that were thousands of years old. And I call bull crap on that. That can't be true. Look it up. It is true. The bodies, as it decompose, they change the chemical of the dirt. And I said, okay, how do we find this? We have a guy named Brew. You mentioned, our president mentioned Brew's one of the team guys up here. He's a cave rescuer. I asked Brew, do you know of these rescue teams around here? Know them? Of course I do. Give me a list. Gave me a list. Wrote up a nice information paper. That's what I did for 20 years. Send it out to these folks. I get an email, like I said, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm an early bird. And I get a response right away. You need to get a hold of Kathleen O'Connor and her dog, Seamus. A male yellow lab. And she gave me the personal contact information. She's out of Harrisonburg, and I sent her a personal letter with that information paper, and she said, I'd love to be part of this. So Seamus is up here April 2023, and it's thicker than all get out. We start the dog over here, we're working our way over here. At that point, I'm giving up. I'm in my truck, I'm ready to go. Brew's still with the dog and the handler. It says, Chuck, what? The dog alerted. What does the dog do when it alerts? Nothing. It sits down, it stops hunting. We're like, is that real? Yeah, we think. So we put a yellow ribbon on that tree. We got that dog back 9 months later, once it was winter time again, brought that dog back, and started him over here, and brought Seamus over here, and that dog sat down there, walked over about 10 feet, sat down again, walked over another 20 feet, sat down again, right in a line about 40 feet long. How do we know the dimensions of that grave? Because Gary Ecelbarger found a letter, or the journal, from an 84th Pennsylvania guy, who we quote on that marker there, and said, we buried 84 Confederates today. The girl said 79. Some others reports say a little bit more. And the grave was 40 feet long, 6 feet wide, 4 feet deep. We're like, oh, okay. Now, who said GPR? We bring in the GPR guys. And we cleared this out with a machine clearing. Cleared this out because GPR doesn't do well with like these invasive species and trees and stuff. And came across this and mapped it and found an anomaly of dirt disturbance that was 40 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 3.5 feet deep. We're like, calling it a day, baby. That's close enough for us. Not doing no digging because the bodies are already gone. And this area has been taken, gone over by metal detector many, many times, as Gary said. So at that point, we decided, I think we got this site. And that's why we marked it, put up the interpretation marker. And it's just to understand, the Confederate casualties, we said were 120. Why is there only 70 or 80 buried here? Because the other guys died within the next 36 hours. In a Pritchard house, in houses in Winchester, probably in the glass house. And that's why the immediate bodies were brought up here from even the Pritchard's area because he had the road, right? And that's right. And the 84th guy says, this was worse duty than the battle. However, from what Gary understands, this was a guy from Company I, who was the unengaged company of 84th. Because as an ex-Army guy, I wouldn't want to take a company or a regiment that just took the worst casualties, the whole battle, and say, hey, by the way, go bury the dead Confederates. That's pretty brutal. That's not what happened. They took the unengaged company and sent them up here for burial. And so that was very exciting for us. And so our goal up here, Gary mentioned, to improve the road where we put the fences back. One of our docents has agreed to fund that project, to including putting a 12-pound Napoleon up here to represent the replica, to represent the watershed. By the way, those are $20,000 to $25,000 just for the replica. So we actually have that plan in the works right now to recreate parts of that stone fence and the Virginia snake fence, which would have been on the north side of that road that where 21st Virginia fought. So those are the improvements, and I'll leave you with this. One of our goals is to return the east slope, that way, of Sandy Ridge from where our property ends right there to that roadbed and clear it all. We're not doing this me and Steve with the chainsaws. This is a Machine Cutting Timber Works is the company we're using. And so if anybody is interested in helping us out do that, that's our big goal for here, including that improvement site over where the wasn't Apple Valley Road at the time, but that's basically what it is. So those are our big projects over the next couple of years, among others. But for Sandy Ridge, and now that the trail will be open, and we hope the county cuts the other trail as well. Any questions? Thank you for coming. We do have vehicles up here. If someone really feels like, God, I'd really like to be driven back, come see me, and we'll get you back. Other than that, the trail is open.
Well, wait a minute. Let's say.
Hold up. One second.
I'd like to emphasize, where you all are standing right now, you see all that vegetation? That was all out here. This was all up down this line. This was buried in the vegetation. So was a lot of this lane looking down Sandy Ridge. We had 3 years of timber works out here, forest mulching, pushing this crap back, opening this, took down a deer stand right over here. But we tried to open this up as much as possible. Timber works is $2,500 a day, and worth every cent of it, because what they can do in a day, we couldn't do in a year.
No. Forever.